Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream. Give me 1 second. As always, doing some technical things behind the scene. Uh, Let me see. Let me see. Unknown Space Pioneer says it's late. Yes, sir. It is late. It is late. Um, Things came up. Had to rearrange some things. The vote actually just happened while I was doing prep for the show for this horrendous infrastructure bill that just passed the House, and I was on the way to Biden's desk. So I had to fit that into the live stream. So I had to do some prep for that. But yeah, we're here. We made it. Strangely, there are a couple other people live right now, which is not usual at this time. But give me 1 second and let me. If you guys can share the stream, that would be great. I'm gonna be talking about how many stories did I have? One, two, at least three stories. I'm gonna try to get through. So if you can share this stream, that's what I'm doing right now. And after I'm done with that, I will. After I'm done with that, I will give you a quick intro, a quick summary of some of the topics that we're going to cover. So just give me 1 second. Where Pilgrim says that's how we like it. I responded to Unknown Space Pioneer. Yeah. Thankfully, I have a bunch of night owls or conveniently placed people around the world that they tune in at around this hour. So I greatly appreciate it. It already looks like there's going to be more people in this live stream than there were yesterday. Um, but let me see. One more thing I had to do. Then I'll give you guys the summary of what we're going to be talking about today. Bryson Akana says, "I'm in Hawaii. It's the rightest hour." Well, that's a good. I'm glad it worked out, and it's a good time for you to jump on the live stream. Beverly Jensen says, "Can you get on Rockfin?" Listen, Beverly, let me talk to you because I know you and oh, what's up, George E? Greetings, Insomniac. Beverly, I know you and some other people have been wanting me to move over to Rockfin. Um, I've been clear about like the main reason why I didn't want to commit. There's a lot of space over the top of my head. I've been clear about why I didn't want to do it because mostly the you're required to do like have a content behind a paywall, um, like premium content. Some people have to do it once a week, once every 2 weeks. Um, I have always made all my content free and available to anybody in my audience, and I don't want it to be. I never wanted it to be to have to create content that I think is valuable, but people just can't access it because they can't pay for it. So I've tried to avoid that for the nearly 3 years that I've been doing the show. As it stands right now, it is looking very likely that I might head over to Rockfin, uh, almost entirely because the threat that YouTube censorship poses to this channel and my ability to do the show for you all. After that incident where they took down one of my videos, called it medical misinformation, even though it was from a respected epidemiologist who happens to be more right on this issue of the pandemic. And as time has gone, I've been vindicated, and even more information has come out that confirmed the information that was in that video that they've taken down. And I'll get into that later into the stream. But it just became incredibly clear, like YouTube is just from I've started putting content on this platform, they've been incredibly hostile to my channel, and it just keeps getting worse. And eventually, at some point, it could end with my channel being deleted. So to preempt that, and the chaos of trying to start over again with absolutely no following, I'm going to. It's Rockfin is looking like a very viable option. I'll just say that. Unknown Space Pioneer says Rumble. Oogie Boogie Lou says Boogie Lou says maybe now the dissident left and right can finally unite against criminal tyrants who are stabbing liberty in the back. But Unknown Space Pioneer about Rumble. I would definitely do. I would definitely go over to Rumble. I have no idea how that process works, to be real with you. I've seen that several people whose content that I respect kind of do similar things that we do over here on this channel, like Kim Iverson, Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, and some other people are on Rumble. From what my understanding, they were invited to host their content on their platform. I don't know the arrangement for regular people to join Rumble, so I would definitely be open to it. I'd have to look into it. DOG says, "Hey, brethren." So I see you're feeling better, DOG. I hope you're feeling better because I think it was yesterday in the chat you were saying you weren't feeling good. So hope you're feeling better. Phenomenal Mysticism says, "Late live stream. It's close to 1 a.m. here." It is, yes. Where I'm at is close to 1 a.m. I'm on the East Coast, so yes, it is 12:57 on my side, and we're gonna do the stream anyway. Very likely gonna be a 2 hour live stream, 2 hour plus live stream. Got a couple different things that we're gonna talk about. The first story we're going to talk about, of course, the infrastructure bill. So, I mean, it's played out almost exactly as I predicted, and I've been saying this is going to play out for months now. Um, Slightly more embarrassing for the people still shilling for the progressives and the progressives in Congress, the charlatans who are basically just establishment politicians who take small dollar donations. It ended up slightly more embarrassing than previous predictions. So I'll get into that. And really, there's some horrible things in this uh, bipartisan infrastructure bill that just passed and it's on its way to Biden's desk. There's some really, really terrible things. Um, Under normal circumstances, the left would and should be opposed to some of the major parts of this bill. Um, but because of the theater around all of this and the bullshit build back better reconciliation package that they were pretending that they were gonna attach to it and all the things, everybody was just going to accept this bullshit infrastructure bill because they thought they were going to get the crumbs in the build back better reconciliation bill. Turns out they gutted that build back reconciliation bill, and now they might not have ever even passed it because there's no incentive to pass it. So I'll get into that. Also, this is a study that just came out about professor at I think it's at Texas University uh, went to a bunch of different fast food chains and ordered like over 60 menu items, and a bunch of them had dangerous chemicals in there, plastics, chemicals used to make plastics um, in the food. So I'm gonna talk about that, and also I'm going to talk about another study, major study, that has yet again blown a gaping hole into the vaccination strategy, the COVID vaccination strategy. Um, this time from the journal Science, one of the most respected science journals in the entire country and around the world, came out and basically said that the vaccines become basically useless, damn near useless after about 6 months. Um, so this is just the latest study coming out with that finding. Uh, this is the latest in the string of studies. There was before, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the Lancet came out with their own study that showed the vaccines becoming less effective, and the European Journal for Epidemiology, the top epidemiology journal for epidemiology in the world, also published a study where they went over data. I'm going way too into this for the intro, but this string of studies that not suggest are showing data that the vaccines become a lot less effective uh, as time goes on. So I'm going to be covering that too. And of course, in between, we're going to be in the live stream and I mean, in the live chats, and I'll be talking to you all. But we have important work to do here today, guys, because I've been invited on to a couple different platforms to talk about important policy and things like that. I was invited by people at the Fred Hampton Leftists to join their General Strike Summit that they're hosting this weekend. Oh, today's still Saturday, right? Whatever. It's on the weekend, so Friday the 12th all the way to Sunday the 14th, I believe. They're hosting a general strike summit where they have a bunch of different panel discussions with like labor organizers and activists and things like that. And they try to discuss things like try to discuss what it would take to uh, launch a general strike or really any type of direct action, worker centered direct action. So I got invited to that, but and I also was invited to join Kit and the Hardlands Media crew on their channel to come on their show um, for like a guest invitation. But to do any of those things, I would need and also I got invited to go on Franco from Frank Analysis show again. But in order to do any of those things, I would need money for hotel rooms so I can have a place to set up my equipment, set up and record. Uh, at this moment, I do not have the funds to do those things, so I'm heavily relying on you all to make this happen. If you want to see me at the General Strike Summit, you want to see me on Hardlights Media, if you can, throughout the stream, contribute, whether it's $5, $10, anything you have that you can contribute. The links are so PayPal is in the description box. Uh, so is a link to if you want to do one time contribution, you could do it through PayPal. The links to GoFundMe is in the description box. There's a link to Cash App in the description box that's also pinned in the live chat. And there's also links to Patreon if you want to help support the show monthly. So now that we said all of that, uh, now that we said all of that, I guess we should get into the first topic that we had planned. Let me just get a drink of water real quick. Um, yeah, give me 1 second. All right, all right, all right. We back. Actually, let me put some Vaseline on. My lips get dry during these segments. Okay. All right. So the first topic we want to get into. All right. So it's finally over, everybody. After months of back and forth and kabuki theater and grandstanding all over the media, Democrats have finally passed this horrendous, terrible bipartisan infrastructure bill. And before I get into the details of it, which are alarming to say the least, and really uh, should be facing a lot of backlash from the public or pushback from the public, let me just first state what a epic fail and missed opportunity this entire debacle has been. Because I mean, and it's not a missed opportunity for the Democrats because this is exactly what they wanted. They're all they the party is run by corporate Democrats, beholden to their corporate donors, and they don't want to actually change anything. The status quo is working just fine for them, and the only thing that they wanted to do, their main goal with government, is to find a way to give even more cash, transfer more wealth to the most wealthy people in the country. And that's exactly what they did with this infrastructure bill. So it wasn't a missed opportunity for the Democrats. They did exactly what they wanted with this opportunity. It was a missed opportunity for anybody who cares about the well-being of this country. Because you pass the infrastructure, but first of all, we're in the middle of an emergency still, right? Well, I wouldn't say not an emergency, but we're still in the middle of several crises. The climate crisis, the economic crisis. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, and the government hasn't done a goddamn thing. Democrats completely control government for almost a year now. They haven't done a fucking thing, and so they have this major legislation, and it's supposed to be about infrastructure. The infrastructure in this country is crumbling. There's thousands of areas with a bunch of lead contamination and poison water and things like that. Roads and bridges literally collapsing all over the place. Buildings collapsing because the infrastructure in this country is so fucking terrible. Um, this is a real shithole country at this point. And the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, public transportation, all of it is horrible, in a horrible state in this country. And on top of that, like I said, the economic crisis. So, and the homelessness crisis, mass homelessness and mass evictions and all those things. Those are all important things that should be addressed if you're addressing infrastructure, right? They chose to do nothing about any of those issues. They didn't move an inch towards solving any of those problems. Instead, they just named this an infrastructure bill, and what was in it is just a bunch of corporate giveaways to the well-connected and nothing for regular people. And this might very well be the last piece of major legislation that the Democrats pass. And honestly, I think it might be worse than the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to get into it, and I don't even have everything in the bill, all the worst part. Like, I mean, I don't have every terrible thing in this bill, but looking at it and it just already looks like it's worse than the tax cuts that were passed under the Republicans, which was their piece of major legislation. So we're told that we have to vote blue no matter who, vote for the lesser of two evils, so that they can be, things will get slightly better as opposed to Republicans. But this complete democratically run government under this Democratic administration has been a perfect case study in how you put Democrats in office and they're gonna do shit as bad, if not worse, than the Republicans. So look at this infrastructure bill, right? The what is in it has gotten almost no discussion this entire time, and it's wild because this has been the focus of like politics and politicals and the mainstream media for months, right? But nobody's talked about what's in this bipartisan infrastructure package. They've during this entire time they've successfully, and all of this has just been a bunch of kabuki theater and a dog and pony show. But during this entire process, they've managed to limit their discussion to like parameters that they felt comfortable with. So nothing in this bipartisan infrastructure bill, which happens to be the only thing that passed, none of that was ever discussed, but I will get into that. But for months and months and months on end, the only topic of discussion was, oh, what's Joe Manchin's bottom top line? What's the most he's willing to spend on this infrastructure bill? And it's just a bunch of like a process mongering and this inside politics shit that was a distraction. And the bipartisan, not the bipartisan, the Build Back Better bill, which was supposed to be the human infrastructure bill, was supposed to have all the great things that we know the Democrats were never going to give people. Things like the universal child care, free public, tuition-free public college. What else was supposed to be in there? Expanding Medicare to cover vision, dental, and hearing, all these other things that were crumbs, inadequate for the moment, but they were dangling in front of people, again, as part of the theater to distract them from what they really wanted to do, which was the corporate heist infrastructure bill, which just passed Congress. So that was the topic of discussion. Oh, are the Democrats good? Look at all the great things the Democrats are going to do. And then as it got closer to the time to actually pass it, oh, now Manchin's they're gonna start having to cave to the whims of Joe Manchin, and they have to gut the infrastructure bill. And over a matter of days, they took everything out, all the good stuff that they were promising, and that was the sole discussion in the media about infrastructure. Took all those things out, and then left with a bunch of nothing. And then even worse, They don't even pass that bill at all, and it's looking like it might never pass. And so all of that discussion, all the focus was paid to something that isn't even going to pass Congress. And in the dead of, literally in the dead of night, because they did it in the middle of the night, they had this vote on this horrific bipartisan infrastructure bill, and nobody knows what's in this thing, and it should be alarming to the public. So one of the first things, that one of the worst things in this is that again, infrastructure, right? In the middle of a climate crisis, we need to get to zero carbon emissions. We need to move to completely renewable energy to power power plants and cars and homes and things like that across the country. That should be the focus of an infrastructure bill, especially any climate part of the infrastructure bill. But instead of doing anything to make the climate crisis better, even 1% better, as like the incrementalism that the neoliberals love. Not, instead of even doing that, they're going to make it worse. And in this bill is like $25 billion in subsidies that is supposed to go to fossil fuel companies, and under the guise of them, what is it? To invest in green technology and things like that. So it's just a giant money pit that they're gonna throw to the people, the biggest polluters on the planet, and tell them, hey, take this giant blank check and do something and avert climate apocalypse. But really, they're just gonna take the money and it's gonna subsidize their operations. And even there is even money meant to go directly to pipelines and drilling operations. So again, the Democrats, who we're told we need to vote for them because of the climate, and the Republicans are the climate deniers, right? And they're going to let the planet burn. Well, a bunch of Democrats who control government right now just passed the infrastructure bill that is going to make the climate crisis even worse. They're going to exacerbate it even worse. As we are literally on the doorstep of cataclysmic scenario, apocalyptic scenario. We're already in the middle of a mass extinction event. And still, again, Democrats completely control government, right? And for the party who claims to believe in the science and claims to want to do something about climate change, which we know is a farce because they take money from the fossil fuel industry just like Republicans and beholden to them just like Republicans. But we're told, right, the theater is, the facade is, oh, these are the serious people about climate. Well, again, this might be the only bill that they have that they'll pass in this entire administration to address the climate, and it just made it worse. They just made it fucking worse. So that part, it's amazing. It's outstanding. But even worse, I don't even know if it's even worse, but also bad. And by the way, I'm not sure if the $600. So there was a provision that they were floating, to have the IRS monitor bank accounts for over $600. Yeah, any bank account that has over $600 in it, the IRS is supposed to monitor it. Now, they were trying to put that provision into the bill so that the IRS can monitor bank accounts that with over $600 in it, monitor every transaction in and out of that bank account, in order to get people to they say it's so that the rich could pay taxes, so that they could get the wealthy tax cheats. But clearly, this is something that's going to be targeted at regular working people. Because if you wanted to target millionaires or billionaires who are dodging millions of dollars in taxes, it's a weird thing. It's a very wide net you're casting if the IRS is going to monitor every bank account with over $600 in there. So why not set the limit to something where only multimillionaires and billionaires who are dodging taxes would even have that amount of money in their bank accounts. Like, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, whatever it is, like something that a regular person wouldn't have in their bank account. But instead, they have it. They will try to put this provision in there for the $600 to monitor every single bank account in this country that has over $600 in it. And I'm not sure if that made it into the final text of the bill, but it is just clearly another way to police and crack down on regular working class people in this country, and as if that should be the focus of the IRS. If you really want to recoup lost tax dollars, why don't you go to the billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, who literally don't pay any fucking taxes on their billions of dollars and what that they have. But instead, they're gonna do this bullshit and they're gonna pretend like they're actually like doing this to get tax revenue, but that's not what this is about. But I'm not 100% sure if that's in the bill. But what I'm sure is in this bill is a giant privatization scheme. They want to privatize the infrastructure in this country. They're already failing, decrepit infrastructure. They want to privatize it and sell it off to private corporations so that they could make a profit off of the infrastructure, off of our infrastructure, and also run it into the ground, but then just pocket all the money for themselves. There are $300 billion allocated to like public-private partnerships, and there's language in the provisions in there to allow private investors to basically purchase pieces of our infrastructure, things like roads and bridges and dams, power plants. They all of it is up for grabs. Well, and they're going to try to privatize these things, so they become, instead of public services, they're just a private commodity and a private money making operation. So the way it can manifest is, well, one of the examples in an article that I read, it was like a Medium post from somebody, and I don't have the link to it, was that the examples that they gave was like when Mike Pence was governor of Indiana, and he did something similar called asset recycling, which is a fancy word for privatization, and they allowed private investors to buy or buy the rights to roads in Indiana, and it was supposed to be like this public-private in partnership, and the taxpayers put up a bunch of fucking money, give and to these corporations, and then they, instead of improving the roads, which is what they were supposed to do, they just took all the fucking money, the advance that they got from the government, and then they just didn't do the fucking work. And the project ended up stretching years and years and years, and then ultimately, the government had to take over the hundreds of miles of roads and up and maintaining themselves, because the corporations, the private investors, they took all the money and weren't working on the road and left parts of these roads unworked because it wasn't profitable for them. So as always, once you introduce the profit incentive, there are a lot of shortcuts are going to be taken, and people are going to try to find ways to save money and to pocket as much money as possible, which means taking money that should be public money that should be going towards improving infrastructure that we all use. They're just going to pocket it and make it their own profit. So that's an example. Also, in Puerto Rico, they've privatized like the energy system in Puerto Rico, and that has led to huge problems. They in a lot of areas they have like unreliable electricity, blackouts that can last a very long time, and when Hurricane Maria happened, it hit the island. Ooh, how long has it been now? Maybe 3, 4 years ago. Uh, it knocked out. It just devastated the power plants that were already decrepit because they were been privatized and been neglected by the private investors because it's more profitable to just jack up the rates and not actually do anything, provide the service and improve the make the investment in improving the energy grid. So they were just pocketing all the money, price gouging people and all this shit. And then the storm came. It created another crisis because then it knocked out the power, and they were nowhere near prepared to completely rebuild the island's electric grid. And it was one of the longest blackouts in U.S. history for months. I think it was over 6 months. Most of the island was in darkness, and a huge reason for that is because they privatized the energy grid, and it was neglected. So now, and they're doing this is again. So roads, bridges, power plants, electric dams, all of these things that are critical infrastructure. And this is part of the project of neoliberalism. Neglected and make government as useless and as unresponsive and unreliable as possible, so that you could turn around and say, oh look, government's not doing what they're supposed to do. Might as well privatize everything, and continue this our descent into corporatocracy, and this just one big corporate state where the corporations just call the shots for everybody. So that's kind of what I feel like has happened with the infrastructure over the last couple of decades. They've intentionally let it go to shit so that they can make try to do schemes and grifts like this to privatize the infrastructure once it's so bad, and they have to tell the people, oh my god, look, the only option we have left is to let Wall Street and all these other banks and all these investment billionaires and millionaire investors just own the infrastructure in this country. That's the only way it can be improved. Completely acting like the government doesn't have the resources and doesn't have the ability to hire people to upgrade the infrastructure, completely paid for and by the public. So that's part of what's in this infrastructure bill. It's a lot of terrible things, and they'll go around and they'll talk about all roads and bridges. That's and in that clip that I showed you from the Exxon's top lobbyist who exposed their ass, he even said while he was lobbying them on this specific infrastructure bill, he when he wants them to talk about they were given the orders from these corporations to talk about it strictly as roads and bridges. That was like the propaganda spin that they were going to put on it, to make it so that it's harder to object to this shitty bill, by saying, oh, it's roads and bridges. Who can be against roads and bridges? But again, it was just a giant grift to privatize infrastructure and give another blank check to these giant corporations. And that's exactly what they ended up doing. That's exactly what they ended up doing with this. It's a fucking shame. And so what's going to end up happening is I just lost my train of thought. So what's going to end up happening with this infrastructure bill? It's going to pass. I mean, it already did pass. It passed the Senate already. It was just waiting to go through the House, and then it did. And now it's on its way to Joe Biden's desk, and now this is going to become law. And there was absolutely no effort from any of the quote institutional left. We don't really have any institution left in this country to really object to this bipartisan infrastructure bill, and now it's passed, and it's fucking terrible. This thing is terrible, and again, it just shows you how hostile the government is to the public and how they will bend over backwards and jump through flaming hoops before they do anything to in the benefit of the public. I mean, in the middle of this pandemic, they've already given everything and the kitchen sink to these giant corporations. These billionaires have doubled their wealth during the worst emergency, the worst crises of any of our lifetimes. The billionaires doubled their wealth while 60 million people lost their job and millions of people are facing eviction. Billionaires doubled their wealth. These giant corporations got huge their stock prices shot through the roof, especially the ones who are providing who had a monopoly on services during the pandemic. And again, it's at every turn, it's second verse same as the first. They're one trick pony, both the Democrats and the Republicans. At every opportunity, they say, how can we turn this around into an event where we can give gratuitous amounts of money to the most wealthy people in this country? That is literally what the federal government main function is at this point, to act as a piggy bank to bankroll private corporations, and it's never enough. It's never enough, and that's exactly what this infrastructure bill is. Don't let anybody tell you this is about roads and bridges. Let anybody tell you any of that bullshit. Because if they were really actually trying to, if they were going to address the infrastructure in this country, they wouldn't allocate a couple $1 billion to fix the lead pipes. It would be a multi-trillion-dollar investment into making sure to get rid of all water contamination in this country. It's not impossible to do, but it would require that level of investment. So when they put $1 billion into changing some lead pipes around the country, that's a distraction. That's not what this bill is about. And in fact, most of that money is probably just going to go to contractors that are well connected with these politicians anyway. So, like I said, it was a missed opportunity for the people. The elites, the oligarchs, got exactly what they wanted out of this, and there was no pushback for these things that should have been a hell no from the beginning. Everybody on the left was willing to go. Well, not everybody on the left. Let me take that back. Let me walk that back immediately. Immediately, let me walk that back. There were a lot of people who claim to be left and progressives and all those things who are willing to take this bullshit infrastructure bill if it meant that they got the crumbs that were on offer from the Democratic Party. And so they let months go by with absolutely no pushback and no dissent against this bill. And now, like I said, in the dead of night, they passed it. Most of the public doesn't know what's in it, and everybody showed their ass when they were willing to go along with this corporate heist. If it meant that they were going to get some scraps and crumbs that they could claim was a victory. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about this infrastructure bill, and I will definitely have to do more videos on it because there's a lot more to talk about. Franco from Frank Analysis has been talking about this a lot. I think he had Ali Alexandra on again before I came on live today to talk about this bill. She already wrote an article on Substack about this. But yeah, not enough people talking about the terrible things that are in this bill. So let me see what's happening in the chat. A lot of comments in the chat. Ashura says the Fraud Squad voted no to keep getting more funding from the Sims who believe they are fighting for them in Washington. Yeah. So, and I'm glad you brought that up, so I could just mention this, so I could get this out there. The most of the Justice Democrats, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Presley, I think Jamal Bowman, voted no on this, but ultimately it didn't mean anything because they got enough Republican votes to pass it. Clearly, they had enough Republican votes to pass it. So again, as always, when it's when there's nothing on the line, when they aren't actually posing a threat to the Democratic establishment and their agenda, that's when they'll all come out and take the grandstanding stand, and they'll vote no on this infrastructure bill. Um, that's not that doesn't deserve any fucking credit. Don't let anybody tell you they should get any fucking credit for that. And let me make that clear right now, because for fucking months they've been debating about infrastructure, right? And the provisions that were in this bill have been known for months. And all of those people who ended up voting no on this, for months, they were going around and saying, oh, I'm cool with this. I have no objections to this. Hey, let's not privatize our infrastructure. This is objectionable, and this is crossing so many red lines, the shit that's in this bill. I'm not going to vote for a bill that's going to give $25 billion in subsidies to the fossil fuel industry so that they can exacerbate the climate crisis. I'm not going to vote yes on a bill that gives $300 billion into funds to privatize our infrastructure across the country. I'm not voting for that under any circumstances. They could have done that, and they could have raised hell about it, and actually put a spotlight on this giant corporate heist for fucking months and build public pressure, like always, the same strategy. Have direct action on this issue. They could have done all of those things if they really objected to what was in this bill. They didn't do it, and it's just they all got the luxury of voting no on this bill because there was enough Republicans to pass it no matter what. And had there not been enough Republicans, you bet your fucking ass, AOC, Jamal Bowman, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, they all would have voted fucking yes if Nancy Pelosi needed their votes. So I forgot where I heard it from. I heard it recently. These people are progressive until the Democratic Party needs them not to be. I think it was Nick from Fred Hampton Leftist. They're progressive until the Democratic Party needs them not to be. And in this case, in this scenario, they all got to try to hold on to whatever street cred they got and vote no on this and pretend like they were opposing Democratic leadership, but really they didn't need them to vote on this bill. So that's why they got the luxury of voting no. But like I said, had Nancy Pelosi needed their votes, they all would have voted for it, and there would have been no fucking objection, because there never has been any objection to anything the Democratic leadership wants to do. In fact, they'll come out and cheerlead for every fucking thing and gaslight the left and tell them that they're basically getting FDR level change from bullshit neoliberal incrementalism. So don't let anybody tell you that these people deserve credit because they came out and voted fucking no on this shit. Because they could have done way more and they didn't. And the shit passed, and they're just gonna act like, oh, whoops, guess we just privatized the infrastructure for the whole fucking country. Guess we just subsidized the destruction of the climate even more, and I didn't do anything. All I did was show up one day and vote no. Oops, and that's all I got. That's all I can do, everybody. Noli D says, "Hey, you were supposed to email me. We'll send you a text with a $2 donations." Yes. Let me make a note of that. I will email. There are a lot of people I'm supposed to email back and message back. But I will definitely. I remember we talked yesterday, and I remember you gave a $3 donation during the live stream yesterday. I'll definitely email you back. I'm not gonna be live streaming tomorrow, so I should have time to do that. I also have Debate Me channel. If you're watching this, I know I saw your DM. I'm gonna DM you back. I promise. And independent left news, I'm also going to reach back out to you. Um, where Pilgrim says Build Back Better is still $1.7 trillion, but they're not voting for it until the 20th. They just did the bipartisan infrastructure with a promise from the moderates that they'll do the other bill if it passes up the financial test. Yeah. So, and again, this is so I said at the beginning of the stream, like they this played out like I thought it would, with the left getting absolutely fucking nothing, but it ended up even more embarrassing because more embarrassing for these so-called elected progressives, because they were getting all this praise, all this fucking parades being thrown because they were, quote, holding the line, which was some fucking uh uh uh, uh propaganda that was being passed around by some of the 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 professional managerial left. So they were getting all this praise for holding the line because they said that they weren't going to vote on this bipartisan infrastructure bill unless they passed the Build Back Better act at the same time. And then just at the drop of a fucking dime, like as always, Pramila Jayapal and the rest of them fall in fucking line for Democratic leadership. And when they said enough is enough, cut the bullshit, we're gonna vote on this bipartisan infrastructure bill, regardless of whatever you're saying. Pramila Jayapal rolled up and said, "Okay, yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna do exactly that." And when people try to ask me why I flipped so suddenly, let me see what I'll say. Oh, Joe Biden made me a fucking promise. Joe Biden promised me that he'll get Joe Manchin to vote on that Build Back Better bullshit. That's already a bunch of incremental crumbs that are radically insignificant. Joe Biden promised me that he's going to get Joe Manchin to vote for it. So, hey, everybody, there's nothing to worry about. It's going to pass. There's nothing. It's not like Joe Biden has ever made any promises that he didn't follow through on. It's not like that's ever happened before. It's not like Joe Biden wasn't the person who ran on $15 minimum wage and killed it when they had the opportunity to do it in the stimulus bill that passed earlier this year. It's not like Joe Biden ran on eliminating a great amount of student loan debt, and then a year into his presidency, all it would take is for him to sign a piece of paper and eliminate all the student loan debt. He won't do it yet. He still won't fucking do it. It's not like Joe Biden promised people $2,000 checks, and then when the time came to cash the checks, he said, "Oh, $2,000. I meant 1,400 plus the 600. That's $2,000. So I'm gonna just give you 1,400." It's not like people were missing out on the $2,000 check from Joe Biden that he promised. It's not like Joe Biden has ever promised things. It's not like he promised that he was gonna address the climate crisis and then came into office and is exacerbating it and making it worse. So when Joe Biden comes out and tells you, when Pramila Jayapal comes out and says, and the rest of them, whoever was saying it, Ro Connor too, when they come out and tell me, oh, Joe Biden made us promises that he's gonna give us what we want. All right, so pack it up, everybody. They're not even. First of all, they're bullshitting you so fucking hard. I know they don't believe that shit. There's no way they believe that shit. But they have no fucking shame, and they're gonna come out and talk to you like you're stupid and try to pull that bullshit on you. So it's a fucking clown show. It's a fucking clown show. There's no way that they really think, after all of this back and forth, and they still don't get Joe Manchin, while they have leverage over Joe Manchin to pass this infrastructure bill, that he's going to profit from, that Joe Manchin is going to make millions of dollars from himself. While they had that leverage of holding that over Joe Manchin, they still couldn't get him to do what they wanted. But now they gave Joe Manchin the only thing that he wants from them, and they really think that Joe Biden's gonna give him a stern talking to and make him go along with that bullshit, that Build Back Better bullshit. Also, and by the way, all of this is playing into the theater that Joe Manchin and Joe Biden aren't on the same fucking team, and like they aren't together as an obstacle, this giant fucking neoliberal obstacle to anything that would improve the lives of people. So this whole thing is a fucking clown show. By the way, if anybody wants, if you guys can contribute, I would greatly appreciate it. The links to support, because I like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I've been invited to spread the message on some great platforms. I've been invited to join Fred Hampton Leftist General Strike Summit that's happening this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Um, I was also invited on Hardlands Media to join them. So I have a couple different things that opportunities to really get my message across to a different audience and a new audience. So I would greatly appreciate it if you guys can help me uh, uh, make those appearances because I would need a hotel room so I can set up my equipment and my little studio setup so that I can do those appearances. And I will not be able to do it without you. I don't have the money to do it without you. So if you guys can contribute, that'd be greatly appreciated. And so that I can get a room so I can do those appearances. So the links to Patreon in the description box, PayPal. If you want to do like a direct one-time contribution, GoFundMe. There's a link to GoFundMe in the description box. There's a link to Cash App in the description box, and that link to Cash App's also it's pinned in the live chat. So if you guys can contribute anyway, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm about to go back to the live chat in a second. All right. Phenomenal Mysticism says Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema function as distraction in which the DNC wants to their supporters to falsely believe that Democrats are powerless. Yeah, this the good old rotating villain. There are eras. Joe Lieberman. Oh man, Democrats completely control the House, the Senate, and the White House. Oh, we would love to give you single payer. We would love to deliver on that public option that Barack Obama ran on, but the goddamn Joe Lieberman. It's the goddamn Joe Lieberman. Guess all we can do is give you a bunch of neoliberal bullshit and tell you to go buy private health insurance. Oops, that's all we could do. And now with it's Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema's turn, and then eventually they'll all cash out and have very lucrative careers at any corporation that they please because they did their bidding while they were working in government. Beverly Jensen says, no way it will pass the Senate. No, this did pass the Senate. This passed the Senate months ago. But what was happening was the House was holding on to this bipartisan infrastructure bill. They didn't want to have a vote on it because the progressives were saying that they were going to vote no on it unless they passed the Build Back Better Act at the same time. Because from the beginning, everybody knew when they separated it and said, oh, the good shit would be over here and the shitty corporatist shit would be over here. Everybody knew once they did that, they're going to do everything they could to try to pass the shitty corporatist bill first, which is exactly what they did, and that's why it passed the Senate months ago. They were going to do everything they could to separate it and pass that without ever voting on the other shit. So they had this whole thing for months that, oh, we're not going to have a vote on this thing that already passed the Senate until you vote on the shit that we want you to vote on. But they ended up voting on it anyway, had enough Republican votes to pass it anyway. So now it doesn't have to go back to the Senate. It goes straight to Joe Biden's desk, and he's definitely going to sign it. So this shit is going that shit's becoming law. The shit that I went over at the beginning of the stream, that shit is going to become law. Austin B says, how can you call them negotiators when their job is to not to negotiate, but to lure people in the party? Yeah, that's exactly what they did. Everybody played their role here. Everybody did what they had to do to make sure that the corporations got out like fucking bandits, and everybody was duped. The stupid progressives who still listen to these politicians thought they were to get some good shit, and they were silent, and they didn't make a stink, and they didn't raise hell when the Democrats were proposing this giant privatization scheme, and they all got played like suckers. Joe Manchin gets to look like the tough guy. Oh yeah, I wrangled all these radical leftists and I got them to go along with the bullshit that I wanted them to. And Joe Biden gets to pretend like, oh man, I really wanted to help everybody. I really want to do those good things. But Joe Manchin increased the cinema, and so we just had to do another fucking corporate heist. So everybody played their part here. They did it massively. Kabuki theater is as strong as it's ever been. Where Pilgrim says, I think the previous threshold was $10,000 before they scrutinized a bank transfer. So here's the thing, and this is a very important distinction that I think that people are mixing up. So, and again, I'm not sure if this provision made it into the final bill, but the way it was written before, it was that the IRS is going to monitor every transaction for in a bank account that has over $600 in it. It doesn't mean you have to have a $600 transaction and they're going to monitor it. You would just have to have $600 in that bank account during that fiscal year, and that gives them license to look at every single one of your transactions. So that's a completely different thing from, oh, all of your transactions over $600 are going to be scrutinized. So that's even more invasive than if it was just like they lowered the threshold for like a flag transaction to $600. No, if you just simply have $600, every transaction from $1 to $1,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 previous threshold, everything the IRS would have access to. DOG, yeah, you corrected it in the chat. It's not $600 transactions. It's monitoring all transactions, all transactions. Phenomenal mysticism says, I bet you this infrastructure bill does nothing to resolve the pothole problem in the United States. I'm going to tell you this. Not only are you right, you are 1,000% right. It's not going to do anything. It might actually make it worse because these are public roads, right? So there's, I mean, it's been neglected this entire time, but at least it's in the public purview. So at some point, there might be like some type of money coming into the government that goes into it. But once you privatize it and you give it like the authority to these corporations over whether or not to fix certain potholes or to fix certain roads, they're just never going to do it because it would always be more beneficial for them to keep that money for their and to put it in their pocket as profits. Just like with the health insurance, people, they get all this money, people put into their health and pay into their health insurance plans, expecting when they get sick to have their health insurance company pay whatever the expenses are. But the health insurance companies only make money when they find ways to deny paying for the coverage. So that's exactly what's going to happen when they privatize the road. They're going the only way they're going to make, well, one of the ways that they'll make the most money from it is just price gouging people with tolls and shit like that, or any type of grants that they get from the government to do these construction projects. They're just going to take all that money and pocket it and never do anything to fix the road. So at least there was a chance that maybe somebody in government would decide to fix that one pothole. But now, almost definitely it's not going to happen because somebody's going to have to, the people, it would take money out of their pockets to do that. And they're not going to do it. Okay. An hour in. Uh oh, Noli D, I got your PayPal donation. Thank you so much again for another very generous $3 donation of PayPal through PayPal. Anybody else who and I am going to reach out to you. Anybody else who wants to uh help contribute, like I always said, links in the description box. Cash has pinned in the live chat. Um, what other story? What's the next story I want to talk about? Oh, the next story I'm going to talk about is the mounting studies. Actually, before I even get into that, let me just. Oh, okay. Um. All right. So the next story I'm gonna talk about. Actually, let me get some water. So as there are a lot of discussions about vaccine mandates, uh, emergency use authorizations being granted for children so that they can be vaccinated. Uh, while those conversations are happening, there has been a lot of data, a lot of studies coming out that are showing that uh, these vaccines are not very effective at preventing people from spreading the virus and catching the virus, uh, especially after some time's passed from the time you've been originally vaccinated. So it the first real bombshell, and I wouldn't say it was the first real one, but it was definitely a huge study that contradicted the vaccine narrative. Um, it was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. Um, the European Journal for Epidemiology, which is like the most respected journal for epidemiology around the world, uh, they published a study where they went over the data from that they've compiled from like the CDC and World Health Organization and different public health uh, uh, agencies and departments about like the COVID status, vaccinations, and infections and things like that. And their study found that after looking at data from I believe it was over 60 different countries and over like almost 3,000 different counties here in the United States, they found that there was no correlation between the percentage of the population that was vaccinated and the amount of new cases that were in that area. Um, and honestly, I think that's a generous interpretation of the data because when you look at it, and as they showed in the study, it wasn't just like no correlation. There was a loose correlation, you could say, between the highest vaccinated counties and areas and countries having incredible like having record high amounts of COVID cases. So and this is several explanations, medical explanations for this. I'm not going to get too into it because obviously I'm not a doctor. Uh, uh, but people like Dr. Robert Malone and others have stated that the vaccine, it you it's a leaky vaccine, and people shed the virus from the vaccine. So you could get vaccinated and be shedding the virus and spreading the virus that way, or you could also get infected and spread it like normally as a normal person would. So in a bunch of different counties in this country, where people are like 90%, there's 90% vaccination rate for the people eligible to take the vaccine, and still they were a couple weeks ago, what during the period of the study, they were still those areas were still having record amounts of COVID cases. So it shows you that these aren't working as they were sold. They were sold as take these vaccines and you stop the spread of the virus, and we get we can contain the virus. But clearly, if that was the case, then counties with 80%, 90% people eligible to be vaccinated ended up getting vaccinated, and they're still having record cases. Something's not adding up there. The same with like Singapore, like 80% vaccination, 80% of the adults in the country vaccinated, but they were still seeing record amounts of COVID cases. So it's still spreading, is what I'm trying to say. So, and that was just one study. Then the Lancet came out with another study that the vaccines become less effective, and then now, I believe it was yesterday or a couple days ago, the journal Science also did a study where they went over, or they used data from veterans here in the U.S. Hundreds of thousands of people that were, or of data points that were included in this study, and they found that the vaccines become incredibly less effective at preventing people from catching the virus, or than a couple months after the vaccine was originally administered. So, and one of the most shocking examples of it was like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So within 6 months after you get the vaccine, it goes from being 87% effective at preventing you from getting the virus to 13% effective at preventing people from getting the virus. So you again, it lines up with the previous studies that show that it doesn't matter if area is highly vaccinated, they're still spreading the virus crazy. And all these studies are just mounting on top of each other, and making it irrefutable. And at this point, it really is irrefutable that this strategy of trying to get everybody vaccinated to contain the virus, it is not going to work, and it is not working. And there needs to be other ways that we go about treating or addressing this pandemic, like therapeutics, to make it so that if you do get COVID, you can take a drug, a pill, or whatever, and it dramatically reduces the chance that you get hospitalized, that you end up dying. That would be that's like the one of the best ways to go about it. That, and making sure everybody has like a healthy diet, and they have high vitamin D levels, and things like that. So there are other ways to go about treating this pandemic, and also making sure that the most vulnerable people are vaccinated, because the vaccines, they do prevent serious illness, or they are a lot more effective at preventing serious illness and hospitalization and death, even if you can still spread the virus. So that everything I've said up to this point is not being refuted by anybody. This is accepted by everybody. But there's still this bizarre disconnect between the people who claim to be worshiping science and saying that we need to and still pushing these vaccine mandates, because they fundamentally don't make any sense. You're gonna have vaccine mandates, and again, you're gonna force people to take this experimental vaccine. And yes, I'm going to continue to say it's experimental because as these studies are showing, and we've known from the beginning, they didn't go through the normal testing process, the years-long testing process, to find out exactly how they work and how well they work and how effective they are. They didn't go through that, and we're still learning about them as the days and weeks go by. So you're gonna force people to get experimental vaccine that they aren't comfortable with, and they can still catch the virus and they'll still spread the virus. So what's the point of the mandates? And if you and the argument that a lot of people are making has been, oh, we need to force people to get vaccinated so that they can protect other people. But who are they protecting? Because the people who were at most risk of dying were elderly people and people with comorbidities, people who were at high risk. And those people, most of those people got the vaccine to protect themselves from serious illness. So what does it matter if somebody who's at extremely low risk of getting seriously ill makes a calculation for themselves, as every fucking human being with bodily autonomy has the right to do? They looked at the data and made the decision for themselves. It's not worth the risk for me, or fuck the risk. I just don't feel comfortable getting the vaccine, and I don't think the benefits outweigh that, so I'm just not going to get it. And if I do happen to get COVID, I'm at extremely low risk of dying. What danger does that person pose to anybody else if they choose not to get the vaccine? Because again, if everybody else is so worried about them spreading it to somebody else and that other person getting sick and dying, well, shouldn't that person get the vaccine and protect themselves? So why are you forcing people to do something to protect other people when other people could just get the vaccine for themselves and protect themselves, and you wouldn't have to worry about that? And then on top of that, the main theme here, like I've been talking about, even when you get the vaccine, you're still spreading it. So if the point of the vaccine mandates is to stop people from spreading the virus, it makes no sense, because you're now going to still spread the virus. And with like the Johnson & Johnson is like one of the worst examples. Again, within 6 months, you have a 13% chance of preventing somebody from getting catching the virus. So you're just as likely to spread it as anybody who doesn't have the vaccine. And then the rest of them, they dropped dramatically in their effectiveness at preventing the spread of the virus. So, and again, they do it they have like this 6 month window that they're measuring the effectiveness of this vaccine. But the reality is, as time goes on, whether it's going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, or 18 months, whatever it is, these vaccines are going to be completely useless at preventing the spread of the virus. That's what's going to happen, unless you get a booster shot. And then this opens up a whole other conversation about why people would keep, did we just all sign up to just walk around with a fucking IV of vaccines till the end of our life, because that's the shot's gonna wear off in 6 months or 3 months or whatever, so we just have to keep getting it, these vaccines. So it just makes no sense, and I wish people would just be more open to actually interpreting the data as it's happening, and so that we could actually come up with a logical conclusion. Because a lot of people, they decided that they were going to follow the science and they were going to follow the data, as long as and up until it was provided information that confirmed what they wanted to believe. A lot of people wanted to believe the vaccine was safe, and it works and it's amazing and it's the best thing since sliced bread. So as soon as they were pushing it and they had all these studies. Oh, look at the way that how much it prevents the spread of the virus, and oh, it's this effective at preventing the spread of virus. Immediately, when all those studies were coming out, everybody's like, "Oh, look out how great the virus works. You're an idiot if you don't take it. The vaccine works. You're an idiot if you don't take it." Well, now 6 months later, nobody seems to be looking at the data anymore. They've got what they needed to confirm what they wanted to hear, and now they just shut their minds off, and it's no longer like a fluid thing anymore, like where we're still getting information on it. So I just think everybody's being incredibly like anti-science about this whole thing, and if we're just being objective, just understand that you could say that they help prevent people from severe illness, hospitalization, and death, things like that. But that's not what they were sold as, and I'm tired of people moving the goalpost and acting like there's like we just need to accept the vaccines, and like there's no questions to be asked about it, or discourse to be had around it. I just think that's wild. So let me see what's happening in the chat. Paul Eisenberg's studies show boys 12 to 15 are 4 to 6 times more likely to get myocarditis from the jab than experience hospitalization from COVID. And then that's another thing, right? So that's a serious side effect that is being widely accepted at this point. There have been countries that have just straight up banned the use of Moderna vaccines, and some of them who restricted it so that people, like specifically younger males, can't get the vaccine because it has links to heart inflammation and things like that. So while all of these things are happening, and again, just keeps reinforcing what we've all been saying, that we don't know exactly how these vaccines are affecting people's bodies. People are still ignoring the data, ignoring the fact that you're still likely to spread it, and they're going to try to mandate it for children. And again, children are incredibly unlikely of dying from COVID. So the main point of the vaccines at this point, because the goalpost has moved and they don't really prevent the spread, the best you can hope from getting the vaccine is that it reduces your risk of severe illness, hospitalization, and death. But if you're a child, those risks were almost non-existent to begin with. So there is absolutely no purpose in forcing or mandating these vaccines for children, and the emergency authorization for these vaccines without proper testing, to just try to force it onto the entire younger generation without knowing the full effects of it. And clearly we don't know the full effects of it, like I've gone over. So I just think there's a lot of groupthink, and it's getting dangerous. Paul Eisenberg says in Ireland, the two most vaccinated countries or counties were at around 99%, and they had the most cases. More often than not, the higher vax populations have higher transmission rates. And I can't say exactly what it is, but that does seem to be a thing. And again, not just me speculating. That was when they showed the data in that study from in the European Journal of Epidemiology. There was the places with the highest vaccination rates were at the highest classification for the amount of COVID spread that there possibly was. So that is a real thing. Um, there was another point that I wanted to get at in there, but yeah, that is definitely a real thing. Austin B says, I don't know how trustworthy Robert Malone is. He gives me quack vibes. So here's my thing. He I'll look into anything that I hear him talk about. And then on top of that, he's not like really saying anything crazy. Uh, from what I've heard, he's just stating some of the basic principles of epidemiology and vaccines that everybody's conveniently leaving out. So he hasn't like said anything too out there for me. He's just been saying things that are really basically common sense that everybody's just conveniently ignoring. And also, anything, especially before I come out here and say it on the show, I'll look into it myself. So up to this point, and of course the fact that he was a pioneer in creating the mRNA vaccine technology, I don't think I wouldn't dismiss his opinion on um on what's happening. Aziz says Dr. John Campbell, and Kyle interview is a must see. Kyle Kalinske, Dr. John Campbell, the one that was on Jimmy Dore show, he was on Crystal Kyler friend, or was you talking about some other Kyle? Paul Eisenberg says healthy adults and children have very low risk of hospitalization and should have autonomy over their bodies. Everyone should. Uh, those more at risk can get it. Everyone can spread it. So, and then that's another thing, right? Because everybody's being real fast and loose with the numbers, and they like to say, "Oh, get the." Again, I'm not contesting that it has benefits in terms of preventing serious illness and death. But the thing is, people are like quoting numbers, and it comes off very misleading to me because they'll say, "Oh, with if you it's a no brainer, take the vaccine because then it reduces your risk of hospitalization and serious illness by 90%." And I'm not, for the sake of argument, I'm not going to refute that, but it reduces it 90%, but there was like only a 1% chance of me actually even dying from it because the overwhelming majority of people, like 99% of people who get the virus, end up surviving. So originally, it wasn't like, oh, if you catch it, there's like a 50-50 chance you're going to die and you get the vaccine and it just almost completely eliminates the risk. There was almost no chance of me dying anyway. And then the vaccine, again, for people who were at serious risk of dying, like elderly people, people with comorbidities, people who are obese, yes, take it because you were more likely than anybody else uh, to die from it or to get serious illness. So yes, you should definitely take it. But like this idea that I don't know, like if I just like I said, I just think that's some funny math, because if there was like a 1% chance of me dying already, and then you're gonna come in and say, oh, we're gonna reduce that 90%. Okay, that's obviously better, but is it worth again taking an experimental vaccine that I don't feel comfortable with, and I think there's been an incredible amount of a concerted effort to mislead the public around these vaccines. So for those reasons, I'm skeptical of it. And again, when you factor in the actual chances of somebody dying from getting COVID, a lot of people have made the calculation that okay, I'm just for myself, I just I'm just not gonna get it. Austin B says, "Are we gonna have to get boosters four times a year?" I mean, like, where's it fucking end? And again, everybody just keeps moving the goalpost and acting as if that doesn't change science and scientific outcomes, and that doesn't like you can't. Like I'm saying, just I'm tired of the goalpost moving and just not acknowledging that you move the goalpost and gonna try to gaslight me and act like I'm not crazy. Act like I'm crazy for not going along with you every single time you move the goalpost, and acting like I'm crazy for asking questions every time you move the goalpost. Aziz Aziz says, I think vax people must feel ripped off right now and are mad at the world and want to mandate it on the rest of us. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of copium going along, like in like the people who are hardcore in this like vax mandate cult. A lot of them just they've become so emotionally invested in it because they got it and they've been just trying to convince themselves and everybody else that they like superior human beings because they got it, and they just they're just completely obtuse and unreceptive to any information that challenges their narrative. Okay, so I got a $5 donation from Alexander to the GoFundMe. Thank you so much for that. Reminder everybody that while we are doing this stream for fun, we are also doing it for funds. I literally just came up with that off the top of my head. I'm smooth like that. But for real, I've been presented with a couple different opportunities to get our message across to new audiences. I was invited to join Fred Hampton Leftists with their General Strike Summit this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Um, Also, I was invited to join Hardlands Media, and in order to do any of those appearances, I would need money to pay for a hotel room so I can set up like my equipment, have a little studio set up, and record. Um, so I cannot do that without you all. So if you can contribute, uh, the links are in the description box. PayPal, GoFundMe, Cash App, Patreon, all those things are there. Phenomenal Mysticism says, I'm sorry to tell these pro booster people if a jab needs 3, 4, 5 shots yearly to stop one virus, when people's critical thinking skills go off and say maybe the jab isn't effective. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm really trying to get out here. Because it seems like it's just a non-falsifiable claim that these vaccines are the best thing since sliced bread. And we just once they were created, it was like there was absolutely no chance that we were never going to just not give people these vaccines. Like it seems like no matter what we learned about them, no matter how like we find out that they're not effective, it's just like we're going to give people them regardless. And it's so bizarre to me because even if you're like heavy in the like let's vaccinate our way out of this, right? It is clear that these vaccines aren't effective. So why is it like completely off the table to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new vaccine and like invest in a new vaccine or try to improve the ones that have already been created? Like it's like instead everybody just wants to uh uh just put their fucking blinders on and ignore any information that contradicts their current worldview, and they're just going to continue to rationalize whatever it takes. And if that means you got to take 4 or 5 shots a week to make the vaccine work, they're going to say, "Oh, why are you really going to be that anti-science and you're not going to take the vaccine 4 or 5 times a week to make sure it stays effective?" So I really I'm with you, phenomenal mysticism. I'm curious where the line is where people could say this vaccine isn't effective and maybe we should rethink this strategy. Um, Alex Talk says you should post a pay address to Bitcoin or Ethereal as well. Let me tell you, I know absolutely nothing about either of those things. I may regret saying this. If you could tell me in the chat, like, what does that? How does the Bitcoin thing? Last I heard, isn't it like 30 Bitcoin like worth $30,000 or something like that? Who the fuck's gonna give me a Bitcoin? I have no idea how that. I have no idea how that works. I'm going to telegraph my ignorance on this right now because I don't give a fuck. I really have no idea how that works, and so me setting that up seems a little far fetched. At least I know what the fuck until I know what the fuck it is. RJ Ramrod says, to be honest, I just want access to the vaccines that Cuba developed. To be real with you, if I was gonna get one, it would definitely be the Cuban one. I 1,000% have more faith, more trust in the legions of world class doctors in Cuba to provide a vaccine that's actually beneficial to the public than I do these shady ass, sleazy ass pharmaceutical corporations who, through their own corruption, made it so that this strategy, the strategy that benefits them more than anybody else, is like the only approach the government is taking to the virus. And so they got the politicians that they paid for, and they got the media that they paid for to run and do propaganda for their vaccines. And all the while it continues to show that they're not even that effective. So RJ Ramrod, I definitely agree with you on that. If there's a vaccine I'm gonna take, it would probably be the Cuban vaccine. Natalie Williams says you don't have to buy a whole coin. Oh, now that you actually said that, oh, Austin B says you can get fractions of Bitcoin and other altcoins. Now that you mentioned that, on Odyssey, I think they have something like that. It's like a blockchain or something. Um, and like, I honestly have no idea how that credit system works in Odyssey. Shout out to them for always like having like being a backup for my channel where all my content's posted there. But I have no idea how the whole wallet system works and like the coins and the fraction and the percentages. I really have no idea how this shit works. I have no idea how to even cash this shit out. To be real with you. Give me 1 second. Natalie Williams just donated $25 to the GoFundMe. Thank you so much, Natalie. I appreciate that. I greatly appreciate that. That is very, very generous donation. Uh, Biggest one of the night. $25 from Natalie. Anybody wants to one up Natalie, and make it so that I can have a place to, so that I have the money to pay for a hotel room so that I can join the Fred Hampton Leftists with their General Strike Summit, so I could join some panels with them and also do an appearance with Hardlands Media. Uh, the links are in the description box: Cash App, PayPal, GoFundMe, Patreon if you want to support the show monthly. All those links are there. I would greatly appreciate it. Keenan says, "Does your Streamlabs work?" Yes, it does. So, and I think you were one of those people who uh, uh, donated to my Streamlabs. The reason why there were those refunds is because I set it up. I linked my bank account to Streamlabs. I linked PayPal to Streamlabs, and I thought that's all I needed to do because what the fuck else was there left to do? But apparently, there's another step that I had to do, and there was like a window of time to do it, and I didn't, and some of the money got refunded. But now I realized what it is. I know what to do, so it shouldn't happen again. So yes, long-winded answer: Streamlabs does work. Unknown Space Pioneer says I sent you 25 on Cash App. Yes, yes. I think that was you that I just gave the shout out to, and thank you again, Unknown Space Pioneer. I didn't know it was actually you, but thank you so much, Space Pioneer. You are definitely a regular in the show, and you definitely help support the show when you can. Even just showing up, commenting, and liking it, the live stream. I appreciate you so much. Uh, all right, so and yes, if anybody wants to like to have a comment pop up on the screen, like sort of like a super chat would, my channel has been demonetized by YouTube for over a year at this point, which is not news. But if you want like a message like that to pop up on screen, and let me respond to it, um, Streamlabs is the first link in the description box, and you could send a tip with a note, and it'll pop up on screen. Like some people, I don't think anybody's done it in this live stream, but people have done it in previous live streams. Um, all right, so the next story that I'm gonna talk about is probably gonna be a quicker live stream, a quicker story, a shorter story. I can't find words. Give me one second. Let me just drink some water real quick. So there's a decent amount of people in the live stream. I have no idea what was going on today. There was so many people live streaming late in these late hours, and apparently the audience is still up because y'all are still here in the live chat. Give me one second, and I'm gonna get to that next story that I promised you all. Alex talk. Yes, somebody did clarify that it could be sent in fractions. Uh, that being said, still have no idea how to even set that up. Actually, let me know if you all have any like Bitcoin money, and if it's like any serious Bitcoin money. I'm very curious to see answers in the live chat if there's anybody who has like serious Bitcoin money. Um, Give me one second. Let me just check something before I get into the next story. All right. All right. So the next story that I'm gonna talk about is um I don't even know what to say. It should be alarming, but it isn't because it's this story's a dime a dozen. It's happening all the time, but like I always say, that's not a reason to not be outraged. And so this next story I'm gonna talk about, uh, somebody did a study in Texas. I believe it was somebody from Texas University or some university in Texas. Uh, they went to a bunch of different fast food chains, like McDonald's, Chipotle, um, some other places, and actually I can Sorry, I'm just trying to. Okay, so they went to a bunch of different fast food chains like McDonald's, Chipotle, Taco Bell, um, what else? Pizza Hut, Burger King, Domino's, and they ordered like over 60 different item menus and tested them, and they found that over 80% of the food that they ordered contained, and I'm definitely going to mispronounce this, phthalate, called DNP, called DNBP, and 70% called contain the phthalate called DEHP. Both of the chemicals have been linked to reproductive health and other health issues. And these, oh, I have the graph of that actually. Give me one second. And so, sorry, give me one second. Yeah, so they contain this chemical that's used to make plastic. So it's technically plastic, and it's in the food. I have no idea why it is in the food, what purpose it serves. It might actually be um one of the like preservatives that they use, cuz I know that these foods from these fast food chains, they don't really expire like regular food does. And I remember seeing like a time lapse video of like a meal from McDonald's being left out for like days and then weeks and months, and it didn't like what's the word? It didn't decay like any type of organism that was once alive would. Like so, if I like anything that's like or anything that's organic, made out of organic material, like if you leave it, it'll like get moldy, and it will like shit would grow on it, and it would like kind of disintegrate and change form and shit like that. And like how compost like think like you put food in, it turns into to compost, things like that. That's not what it does. It just gets all dried out, and it looks basically exactly the same. So that might be what they put in it, the plastic in it that's doing that. But either way, this is pretty wild, and these are very popular, widespread fast food chains, and they have this toxic chemical in almost all of their food. That seems like a big deal, and so the people who did the study, they try to reach out to the FDA. The FDA said, and I believe USA Today, who I'm reading this article from, they gave this weird non-answer answer where they were saying, so like, what are you guys doing about this? And they were basically saying, oh well, the FDA, we set these standards and of like what we think is a safe amount of toxic chemicals to be allowed in food. And honestly, I think that's a bunch of bullshit anyway, because there's no safe amount of yes, there's some substances that are not going to kill you in small amounts, but there are certain just toxic chemicals that at no level are safe. So all these bullshit levels that the FDA and the EPA give, oh, it's a certain amount of it is it's not when we'll allow a certain amount of it. Honestly, it just I just think it's because that's what's more convenient for the corporations in said industry. They can usually get away with making their products at that cap, so they set it, and even if you're still going to get sick from it, the FDA says, "Oh, what do you know?" And similar to the statement that they gave here, or when we get new information, then we'll update our list of banned chemicals and substances and things like that. But it's that's seems to be playing fast and loose with people's health if you're not gonna do the adequate test on certain things that you know are in the food and that you know can be dangerous. If you're not actively keeping up with it, and you're just waiting for somebody to present you with the new information that these things are harmful to health, and then and because again, this is what their statement was basically saying. Oh, when we get the information, when we're presented with new information, that's when we take action and whatever. So again, I just think they're playing fast and loose with people's health, and so this kind of ties into like a story that I talked about a while ago, which is that the FDA knew that basically all the baby food in the country is being poisoned. All the baby food that you'd find in stores are being poisoned, uh, and that's not an exaggeration. Lead and mercury and all types of heavy metals were found in all the most popular brands and all the most popular stores, and they've known about it for years at this point, and they didn't do anything about it. And something crazy, like there were crazy amounts, like 6 times or 12 times the amount of lead that the FDA allows in bottled water. Which again, there's no amount of lead that's safe for people. So the fact that they even allow a safe amount of lead in the bottled water, it's again shows you that instead of looking out for public safety, they just try to provide a veneer of legality to these corporations to say, hey, they are technically poisoning people because they're under the FDA limit. So anyway, the baby food contained multiple times more lead than the FDA allows in bottled water. And again, they knew about it and they continue to let these food be sold on the shelves. Still to this day, they haven't recalled that food. So that baby food, all these baby foods in the store have lead and arsenic and all types of dangerous chemicals in them, literally poisoning babies. So it's it goes to show you that these regulatory agencies that are tasked with looking out for the public good and specifically when it comes to like public health, they aren't doing a fucking thing to protect the public from these corporations, and they will let you get poisoned, and they won't do a fucking thing about it. And so again, this just mounting evidence on the crisis of credibility for the public health institutions who are again supposed to be looking out for public health, but not doing that, looking out for corporate profits. And so I'll get to that in a second. But also, it just raises an important issue in this country, which is like the lack of access to healthy foods. Um, and this is something that was talked about in the USA Today article. Most of these fast food chains are found in poor communities of color. So and it's usually all they can afford, and I'll speak to that myself in a minute. So they're the FDA and all these other regulatory agencies are allowing these corporations to put all types of dangerous shit into these food that they're gonna serve up to poor people and allow that to destroy their health and shit like that. And it's and again they show data that these fast food chains are mostly in poor neighborhoods. So it's almost, I don't want to make it sound too conspiratorial, but it's definitely fuck the poors and we'll kill off the poors for profit type shit, like type of vibes I'm getting from that. And to the point about like this is in areas and this is all people can afford. So me myself, as I've spoke to you all about my own personal living situation, I don't have a place to stay right now, which means I don't have a kitchen. Normally I would cook like every single day, or I would cook and have like leftovers from what I made whatever the day before. But I would always eat like food that I cook. Mostly, well, not mostly, but a big part of it was because the food just doesn't taste good. Even if you go to like a half decent restaurant, the food just does not taste good. Especially if you can cook and you've eaten food from somebody who can cook. The shit like the commercial shit that they sell at these restaurants is definitely fast food. It does not taste good. It really does not taste good. And then also, I stopped eating that kind of food because it just made me feel sick. Partially because of these fucking chemicals that are there, like I'm speaking about right now. And so for a while, I would just make all my like own food. I would cook, but now I don't even have that option. Now I don't even have the option to eat. I mean, most of the food here in this country is tainted anyway, and there's a whole other discussion about agribusiness and things like that. But I don't even have the option of trying to eat healthy because I don't have a place to live. And so I literally have to, the only thing I can eat is like these from these restaurants and like frozen foods and shit like that, who that also have a bunch of harmful shit in there. So it really is a damning like statement of like the class divide in this country, where if you have enough money, then you get to eat food that won't poison you, but if you don't, you're stuck eating poison. And also, like I said earlier, about the crisis of credibility in these public health institutions at this point. Again, they're supposed to be making sure that the shit going into our body is safe, right? And they're clearly dropping the ball on this at these fast food chains with the fucking plastic in their food, just like they dropped the ball with the poison in the baby foods. So, and again, same agencies that are tasked with uh, uh, testing and regulating vaccines, for example. So when people have an enormous amount of skepticism in these institutions and whether or not they have their best interests at heart and whether or not uh, 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 the interests of corporate profits are above the interest of public health. Those are legitimate questions when the public health institutions are in a crisis of credibility. And stories like this just make it even clear why people are distrustful of these regulatory agencies and distrustful of the government, because they are they exist to serve corporate profits and not actually serve the public, which is what they're supposed to do. So let me see what's happening in the live chat. Jody Ockenford says, try Crypto Casey's channel to learn about crypto. Yeah, have a little nice hedge against inflation. Alex Talk says he saves money there instead of banks. I mean, I've heard those pros, I guess, as to why people do it. Um, I'm just like a very um like something I really have to understand how something works, and I really can't wrap my mind around like how that whole Bitcoin shit works. But like you gave me like a channel to go check out to learn more about it. I'll look into that. Yeah, somebody was talking about the way that the the crypto value just fluctuates. Yeah, that part about it just seems just wildly volatile and untenable to me. The way that the prices just fly up and down, like that, just seems like at some point, like there's gonna be some bubble that bursts, and everybody's gonna realize, oh, this isn't worth shit. I don't know. I feel like maybe because and again, I just don't know about it that much about it. I just feel like that's the way that this shit is gonna end. That's why I've usually just like kind of avoided it. Phenomenal Mysticism says FDA considers BHT and BHA to be safe substances in food, but other countries ban them because they're known uh, endocrine disruptors. Plus, most of the plastic industry doesn't use BHT and BHA anymore. Yeah, that's so that gets to the point that I was saying about like, oh, how the FDA just they just arbitrarily decide, oh, something isn't safe or this amount of it is safe or whatever, and it's really not a decision made in the interest of public health. Is something to provide like a a, a, a patina of or a layer of plausible deniability if anybody ever comes to them and say that, like these corporations are poisoning people. Jodo Yakufor says, if you look at the amount of drugs that have been taken off the market after they were approved due to safety, should freak people out. We are big pharma guinea pigs. Yeah, fucking Pfizer. Just a couple months ago, there was a whole. They did a recall of like this smoking patch that they've had out for years. I believe well over 10 years, and he said it was giving people cancer. Again, something that was approved by the FDA. All the scientists were was saying there was no uproar in the scientific community about it, and then one day, you see the commercial on TV. There's a recall, and don't use this product because it might give you cancer. So they I don't know what the fuck they're regulating and what they're testing, but it really does seem like the wild west and anything goes, and these corporations can put anything in their products, and all literally all these regulatory agencies exist to do is provide them legal cover and say what they're doing is legal. That's it seems to be what all these regulatory agencies are doing at this point. Jody Ockerford says our whole water system is contaminated. EPA turns a blind eye. Yeah, and this is something that I learned years and years ago, and it was a Reuters report. And to this day, I cannot wrap my mind around how this can possibly be true. But there are over 3,000 different towns and cities across the country that have more than twice the amount of lead contamination in their water than Flint, Michigan does. So, like, the whole country's being poisoned, and everybody's just like looking the other way on this. And then that's what one of the things that made me so frustrated about that bullshit infrastructure bill. They had the opportunity to address the mass poisoning of the public, and instead they just used it as an opportunity to help rich run out the back door with all their money, as always. Keenan says, check your Streamlabs. Give me 1 second because there usually is a feed here, and I'm not seeing that. Let me go to the dashboard and see what's going on over there. Whoa, Keenan with the $50 donation through Streamlabs. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. That is definitely the biggest contribution of the whole stream. I mean, that is very, very generous. $50 from Keenan, somebody who's a regular in the live chat, somebody who supports the show when they can. Can I get a big shout out to Keenan for that $50 uh, uh, Streamlab donation? Let me read what he wrote in the note. One, I support. One, support and don't criticize politicians. Two, question mark. Three, profits. Uh, and this these are quotes from deeply unserious people. Yes, I agree with you. And the deeply unserious people has become one of my favorite descriptors lately, because it just perfectly describes all these people, all the people that you talk about right here. Don't criticize politicians and profits. Yeah, only caring about profits. Yes, these are deeply unserious fucking people. And again, thank you so much for that very 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 generous $50 donation through Streamlabs. Jody Okafor says 200% increase in Bitcoin yearly despite ups and downs. Always learn about it first for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like it has been going up. Definitely, I'm not going to refute that. I will not refute that. Um, I for me, it just seemed like such a good thing to get in on, especially early on, because it was just nothing but fucking upside. And at this point, a Bitcoin is like worth 60, $50,000 or something like that. So if I had that shit, oh, I'm cashing out most of that shit right now. Cause I fuck it, I don't need to multiply any more than this. This is, like I said, it was only upside, and you got like $50,000 now for a Bitcoin. So it makes me a little hesitant to try to get in now, because I feel like I'm gonna be the last sucker in on it, and I'm gonna be the one who puts in money and don't get shit out of it. RJ Ramrod says cryptocurrency seems super mysterious until you buy some of it. That kind of demystifies everything. If you have Cash App, you can just buy a few units of some random cryptocurrency and watch how it performs. Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen that they do have that feature on Cash App now. And I saw it, like somebody else mentioned it, like they're doing the same thing with PayPal. So it is like a very very popular mainstream thing now. I just really uh that my ignorance flag, it just flies high when it comes to that. I ain't even gonna try to hide it. Um, but I will definitely look into it as you guys have suggested. I will try to break the cycle of ignorance on this topic. Jody Arthur says Frank Analysis had somebody on doing a deep dive on crypto. It was very insightful. I saw that on my feed months ago, and I just never went back to watch the video. So I might look at that too. Alex Talk says the infrastructure bill is decoupled from the other bill. Now, yeah, like I said, ended as I expected, with the left not getting a goddamn thing out of it, but slightly more embarrassing because they got these like Pramila Jayapal, AOC, the Fraud Squad, Bernie Sanders. They all got fucking taken for a ride in the most public way imaginable, and it's all ended without them getting a fucking thing, got played, and this whole time, and this we knew from the fucking beginning when they made two separate bills. Because why did they do that? Why would you, the way that Congress works, as corrupt as it is, and we know that their instinct, their reflex is to serve corporations. Why on earth would you separate the thing into two different bills One that has all the shit that corporations want, and two that has crumbs for regular people. Only the most logical conclusion, most logical analysis of this that uh, dynamic is that, oh, so they're just gonna try to ram through that shit and just leave all the other shit out, and that's exactly why they split it up, and that's exactly what happened. They got what they wanted, giant fucking corporate heist, bipartisan infrastructure bill passed, and they still ain't have a vote on the Build Back Better shit. If they ever have a vote on that shit, almost definitely they're gonna gut it even further than it already is, and there's basically nothing in that shit as it is. And if they have a vote on it after they get the shit, it might not even fucking pass. So the whole thing is a fucking joke, whole fucking clown show and a circus and everything. Red Precarian says, but they were holding the line. Yes, they were holding the line. Everybody, I hope everybody who felt the need, felt the fucking urge, the drive in them to come out and throw a fucking parade for these politicians for holding the line. I hope you all feel as fucking stupid as you look, because again, you're just the whole time you're doing you're being a useful idiot and entertaining this fucking theater as if there was some serious left wing opposition to this corporatist agenda, as if they weren't going to allow the establishment to do exactly what they fucking wanted anyway at the end of the day. And if that's the case, then what's the fucking purpose of coming out and clapping like seals and throwing a parade when they uh 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 do something like, oh, draw a ridiculously uh, 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 have a ridiculously low bar and low standards, like, oh, I'm not gonna vote for it, and I'm not gonna vote for this giant corporate heist until you give me some crumbs. Wow, you're gonna throw them a parade because they held a line there? Okay, well, that's why you don't have shit, and that's why your politicians don't respect you, because you just a fucking cheer squad for them. Alex Talk says it's hard to look at electoral politics and not feel completely hopeless and helpless. That is the truth. Um, but my hope is looking at outside of electoral politics and direct action, um, because that's where the only real chance of change is coming from. Is coming from people in the streets. And when you understand that, it makes this whole electoral politics look like the fucking clown show that it is. It makes it look like the whole fucking elaborate orchestrated theater that it is, with where the end goal is always the rich run out the back door with all the money. It shows you that there's nothing, you're gonna get nothing out of that, which is a good thing, and everybody needs to learn that lesson. Because then it drives people into the street and makes people realize that that's the only way that you're going to get change. So yes, the electoral politics, the state of electoral politics in this country is fucking abysmal, and it should make everyone weep. How clearly this is an oligarchy, and the government has no interest in representing the people. But like I said, that should give you hope, and it should drive you to make it so that people get into the streets and put the fear of God into these politicians and take power back, the public's power back to actually shape the direction of the country. Austin B says, "Is Jordan Sheridan gonna blame us?" I wouldn't be surprised if he found some way to turn this shit back on us. I wouldn't be surprised. Phenomenal Mysticism says, check your PayPal. Oh, $5 donation. Thank you so much. Phenomenal mysticism. I greatly appreciate that. You said in the note it says hi unapologetic. It's phenomenal mysticism. I want to give. I want you to have the ability to attend Fred Hampton Leftist General Strike Summit. Keep telling the truth, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Um, I also want to attend the General Strike Summit. I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. I don't know who's going to show up. I don't even know what the panels are going to be about. But I think it'll be there needs to be some discussion on the left about how we're going to organize this real direct action and this real pushback, because everybody just like kind of sitting around and waiting for somebody else to do it. So I'm glad that Fred Hampton Leftist is using their platform to open a discussion like this. So if I could help them out by just showing up, I'm definitely going to do that. The Red Precarian says Rome's poverty tour. Let's support that. Definitely. Rome, who's one of the founding members of Fred Hampton Leftist, does this poverty tour where he goes like city to city, and he basically just gives people stuff for free, clothes and like supplies and food and things like that, things that people need. Nothing in return, just gives it out to people, and he usually like will try to raise money through a GoFundMe or something like that. And anytime he does anything like that, I always try to. Anytime I see it, I always share it on Twitter, because I think that's great. I think he's actually improving people's lives, improving the lives of people in his community. And I just respect that so much. And him and people like Finney, who's also at the Fred Hampton Leftist, they are definitely walking the talk and really committed to using mutual aid to improve people's lives, and also recruit people to our way of viewing the world, our position that profit shouldn't be the only thing that matters, and people taking care of your regular people around you should really be like a focus that we all have. So that was a very long answer, but yes, definitely support mutual aid like Rome's poverty tour. Phenomenal Mysticism says Rome Fred Hampton Leftist once said that in a live chat that Nina Turner has his number. I was shocked. I'm not shocked. Rome's been around for a while. He's been in certain circles, left circles for a while. Like I said, he's at Fred Hampton Leftist. All those people who've been all up and through Fred Hampton Leftist, like Brianna Joy Gray, Cornel West, and all the things like that. Sure, he met somebody with connections to Nina Turner. I mean, Rome had my phone number for a while, so I was surprised by that. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting. I would wonder what her current views of Rome and Fred Hampton Leftists are. Red Precarian says one elderly lady needed her porch fixed and Rome fixed it for her. Yeah, he's definitely out there in the community, and he's definitely helping people wherever they can. And that's something that I don't really talk about that much on the show, but that's something I try to do all the time. I don't have a lot of money right now, but I always try to make sure I have cash on me, because literally anytime I see, there's so many homeless people out here. There are so many homeless people out here. So anytime I see anybody who like comes up to me and tries to ask me for anything, I do whatever I can to help them out. Even if I don't got it like that myself. But I just think people it's hard out here for people, and if you could just make somebody's life better, then I I don't know why you wouldn't do that. But I guess the people aren't built like that. Uh, John to Emily transition blog. Bye bye. See you later. All right, catch you later. Thanks for showing up in the live stream. Hopefully see you again soon. Phenomenal mysticism says, quite frankly, I'd be alarmed if Nina Turner had my phone number. I mean, I think she probably got it before she did like her full TYT shit lib transition. So it was probably like a welcome thing from like somebody who you view as an ally or whatever. But like I said, I'm interested in whether like in whether that they still are speaking terms. Jody Okafor says, it's interesting how everyone stopped talking about homeless. Okay, that is very true. I have two points that I've been like trying to work out in my head about this. One, I know that the homeless crisis is a very real thing. I myself am experiencing it, and in my where I'm currently at, um, I can see a lot of other homeless people in the area, and it seems way worse than it's ever been before. So there's definitely a homeless crisis, but also, um, I don't know what's going on with the mass evictions because millions of people were behind on rent, uh, had months of back rent, and record amount of evictions being filed in eviction courts across the country. Um, I'm just not really seeing. I don't know what I would expect if millions of people were being evicted, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not seeing. So I really would like more information on this, more data on the people being evicted and the amount of people who are homeless right now, and what are the state of like all those people who were we was like the millions of families that were said to be evicted. So I definitely want a better understanding on what's happening right now. Arturo, yes, housing is definitely it should be a universal right because there's just especially now when with all this money, all this wealth, especially in the wealthiest country in the world, in the history of the world, it's like there should just be basic things taken care of for people, and this whole idea of like oh you shouldn't like the only thing you should only have what you work for or anything like that like that's such an outdated view of the world because the whole idea that like the obsession with work over like the last decades or like hundreds of years or whatever or really for a while it was it wasn't a healthy thing and so I would think that when the moment presents an opportunity to do things better, I don't know why people wouldn't take that. And with technology, um, it is giving us the opportunity and the amount of enormous amount of wealth and MMT and all those things. It presents an opportunity where people don't have to prostitute themselves and become slaves just so that they can have food to eat so they don't starve to death and they have a roof over their head. So it's we have the ability to make sure that people like so that people don't have to worry about those things. And then once you take those things off the table, honestly, I think the society would improve in such a dramatic way that it's literally impossible to conceive. Because if people didn't have to, and I've seen it, and it's a really fucking scary thing. Um, the way that people kind of turn off their humanity to just like go through the motions of like, oh, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna clock in, and then I'm gonna clock out, and I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna eat, sleep, and do it all over again. It's scary how people turn off their humanity to for basically their entire life to go through that process. And what I noticed trying like removing myself from that is that people, if given the opportunity, it's not like they're just going to. If everybody stopped fucking working, it's not like everybody's like going to be. I don't even know what. Like people would. Many people probably wouldn't want to do anything other than hang out with their friends and family, which isn't a bad thing. But also, there's so many people who would have drive to do like creative things and things that benefit society that normally they wouldn't have the opportunity to do that because they're just slaving just to live paycheck to paycheck. And when you take those like basic things off the table and make it so that people can actually like explore their humanity, explore what it is that excites them and what their purpose is, like you're gonna get there's gonna be a lot of upsides to that. Music is like a good example. It is a very hard thing for people to pursue music because the amount of time it takes to like develop that skill. It's hard to do when you're actually working a full-time job and to pursue that and to like do things with it. But even though it might not be like a great money making operation, it provides a great service not only to yourself because you grow as a human being when you like study music and you like growing like you're developing your skill or whatever, but also it's a service to everybody who uh, gets to listen to the music or whatever your art form is. So there's a long-winded way of me saying that I think that basic needs like that should definitely be taken care of, and human beings would definitely be in a better place if that was the case. Red Precarian says, "I was homeless once. If I had not accidentally met another ex Navy bro, he was a SEAL. I was not, but we knew each other. Uh, if not for him, I might still be homeless." Yeah, like so many people, like it's just one bad situation away from being homeless, and that's kind of crazy. And like I said, it's like a sword that hangs over people's head, and that's what keeps people. Makes it so that they will take whatever shit that their boss is serving up because they know they keep the lights on. They know they have to have a place to live. So it's just it's a terrible experience. Nobody should really have to go through that. And once you are in it, it's hard to get out. Keenan says before the pandemic, it was already proven that having homeless is not only the more expensive route, it's the most expensive route. It's far cheaper to simply house and reintegrate. Yeah. So, and that's another thing that it's just so hard for me to wrap my mind around because at this point, you are like the main reason why people are would be against housing homeless people. Oh, it would cost too much. Well, you literally objectively spending more to keep them on the streets, and we're doing it anyway indefinitely. So it's just a really weird thing that it's still like homelessness is still in existence. And when you look at it like that, it's hard to take away that it's just not like some weird power trip that or like some form of like social control over people um as like that threat for workers, like, oh, if you don't bow to the corporate your corporate masters, you're gonna end up like those homeless people or something like that. So it's not, there's absolutely no rational reason to allow that to exist anymore. Uh, so there's just something that I can never wrap my mind around. Holy shit, my neck is killing me. Um, so I'm going to end the stream soon. If you guys have any last comments or anything like that, um, uh, bring them in the live chats. Say it now or forever hold your peace. Um, Also, as I mentioned several times throughout the stream, uh, was presented several opportunities to get our message across to new a new audience on different platforms, like Fred Hampton Leftists, General Strike Summit, and Hardlands Media, who've invited me. In order to make those appearances, I would need money to pay for hotel room. So the links to any of those things are in the description box. Like PayPal if you want to do a direct one-time contribution. Streamlabs if you want your comment to pop up on stream on screen. GoFundMe, Cash App, Patreon. All those links are in the description box, and there's also a link to Cash App in the live chat. So let me go to the live chat and see what's happening in the live chat. Um, Paul Eisenberg says in France, you perform a certain amount of gigs as a musician. They subsidize living expenses. That's my understanding. That's how it should be in the U.S. We're forced to have a day job to support our hobby. Yeah, I just think, and especially as I've like grown more into my creative side and like chosen to go in that direction with my life. It's just so weird to me how that isn't supported more. And it's like all of our society is pushing people away from that direction. And it's crazy because there isn't a single person who doesn't love music, who doesn't appreciate good artists and the work that they create. But yet, it's like a whole concerted effort to make sure that people don't go that route and don't become the new musicians and don't get to explore their talent because they're just prostituting themselves for money for their entire life. It's a very weird thing. It's a very weird thing. Alex Talk says, "Is this a normal streaming time for this channel?" Um, I've always I started live streaming over a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. The days have blurred together. Um, and the earliest I've ever done a live stream was maybe like 10:30 or something like that. But recently I've been doing them. I've been starting at 11, and then even later, like today I came on at 12. But usually usually I start around those times, go around for like 2 hours. Longest I've ever gone on was like around 3 hours or something like that. But usually you'll catch me like at around the midnight hour, definitely later than almost anybody else uh, who live streams is live streaming. So if you're ever up at this hour and looking for a live chat to jump into, my channels is a good place to look out for at this time. Jody Ockerford says check Streamlabs. I am going to do that right now. Jody Ockerford again with another $10 donation. She has been a huge supporter of the show recently. Uh, $10 donation says biggest healthcare workers on West Coast striking in a week from Kaiser. So many people are angry. Are those? I think those are the workers protesting a mandate. Can you let me know in the live chat? Can you clarify that for me in the live chat? I'm pretty sure they're protesting a vaccine mandate. And there's so many workers around the country opposing vaccine mandates, which is a great thing. Um, and like Professor Richard Wolf has been saying, and has been making the rounds in left media. This is something that the left and people who agree with our populist policy agenda should be taking advantage of. We shouldn't be. There's so many people who want to just dig into the whole culture wars angle of it and all these stupid right wingers and look at them, the anti science and all those things, but these are workers who've been in every other way have had their autonomy stripped from them for like the reasons like we were speaking about just a couple minutes ago in his live stream about how your whole life is dictated by or you live your entire life to make somebody else profit and you just live at their whims. So these people have no control over their lives, no control over anything, and then you all of the sketchiness around this vaccine that I've spoken about before, and on top of that, you're gonna have like now their bosses trying to force them to inject some experimental drug that they're not comfortable with. So it's a good thing that people are calling bullshit on that and pushing back against it. So I definitely support workers going on strike. Jody says Kaiser's trying to union bust. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. So I am going to log off. I do have to wake up to check out in the morning. Oh, I got another $3 donation from George Owen. Thank you, George E. George E. in the live chat. I'm stop doxing you. Thank you so much. He says thanks for the show. No, thank you for showing up as always, and thank everybody else for showing up. I do have, like I said, have to check out in a couple hours, so I need to get my shit together and try to go to sleep. And I still haven't eaten, so I'm going to end this live stream. It's been another hell of a live stream, 2 hours and 40 minutes. So many great people in the live chat, so many regulars, and so many people who've contributed to help support the show, and I greatly appreciate all of that. Um, so thank you so much for everybody for showing up. Uh, I I did enjoy the topics that I talked about. I hope you guys enjoyed them too, and I will see you guys again soon.